Hey everybody, welcome. Good morning. Welcome to Daily Reflections with Chris. And I'm Chris. And this is the daily reflection for today. Today is March 16 and the title is, good morning by the way. Hope everybody had a wonderful night's sleep. I did. I got to hang out with my doggy, so that was kind of neat. So here we go. Today is March 16th. We'll start. It says, the title of the entry today is called As We Understand Him. My friend suggested what then seemed a novel idea. Why don't you choose your own conception of God? That statement hit me hard. It melted the icy intellectual mountain in whose shadow I had lived and shivered many years. I stood in the sunlight at last. It was only a matter of being willing to believe in a power greater than myself. Nothing more was required of me to make my beginning. That's from Alcoholics Anonymous, page 12. I remember the times I looked up into the sky and reflected on who started it all and how. When I came to recovery, an understanding of some description of the spiritual dimension became a necessary adjunct to a stable sobriety. After reading a variety of versions, including the scientific of a great explosion, I went for simplicity and made the God of my understanding the great power that made the explosion possible. With the vastness of the universe under his command, he would no doubt be able to guide my thinking and actions if I was prepared to accept his guidance. But I could not accept help if I turned my back on that help. Let me do that over again. Sorry. But I could not expect help if I turned my back on that help and went my own way. I became willing to believe, and I have had 26 years of stable and satisfying sobriety. Wow. I truly believe that entry, it doesn't really tell me who made that entry. For those of you who are new to my channel, we talk recovery, I talk recovery. I share my experience, strength, and hope with you as it pertains to my recovery from alcoholism. And I use this book. It's called The Daily Reflections. And this is a book of reflections by AA members, for AA members, right? So it's a collection of a bunch of entries, whether they were at the grapevine, personal notes, stories that, became a collection since, so this was actually printed in 1990, which is 50 years after AA started. So a lot of this stuff is experience, right? It's experience of what those, sorry, my dog's scratching the door. So it's 50 years of experience from other members, and they put it into this book. It's something to reflect on for me. And I use this book a lot in early recovery because I could not get my mind off of alcohol. So I needed to get my mind onto something else. And for me, this was one of the easiest books to read. Right, so in the paragraph here, in the first paragraph, where actually references the Alcoholics Anonymous book, the big blue one. It's on page 12. This is actually part of Bill's story, right? So Bill, he was he's an alcoholic. He just did what alcoholics do, and he had a buddy named Ebby, right? Ebby was an alcoholic too. But he had found a solution in a higher power, which Ebby thought, who Ebby called God. So then he comes and knocks on Bill W's door, and Bill W's like drunk, and Ebby's like, hey, how's it going? We haven't seen you. He's like, come on in, good old friend. And they start, Bill's like, hey, you want a drink? And Ebby's like, no, I don't, thank you though. And then, after a while, they're just talking about life and everything, and Bill's like, hey, you want a drink? And everybody's like, no, thank you though. Just paraphrasing, I'm phrasing it here, but it's what happened. And then, Bill's like, well, man, what happened here? You clean up good, right? And Abby said, well, I found a program that works. I found God. And Bill W was like, the rest of us like, I don't want to hear about God. He's never helped me. He's never been there. It's never worked. And he said, I don't know anything about it, nor and everything y'all tell me about this God is it's not true. And and Ebby says, well, why don't you choose your own conception of God? And in that moment, Bill had his aha moment. Bill had his wall shaken. He had his glass shattered. It was a novel idea to him. I mean, you're talking about a big time drunk here who wouldn't pretty much listen to anybody, had been threatened to be divorced, had been threatened. I mean, he'd been fired from every company he had ever been fired from. His health was poor. The doctors didn't know, had no solution for him. I mean, they sent him, you're either gonna lock you up to die in an insane asylum or just die, because I mean, we don't, there was no solutions. Up until Alcoholics Anonymous was formed, doctors didn't really have much of a solution. They did shock treatments, behavioral treatments, lock you up treatments, put you in jail treatments, divorce treatments, you lose your job treatments, and nothing ever worked for him. So now his friend Ebby's here sober, and he's like, man, what happened to you? And while he's willing to listen, he doesn't want to have anything to do with this God or this God idea. And Ebby said, well, why don't you choose your own conception? And to him, that was like, ta-da! It was like an aha moment. He said, Bill W. writes here, that statement hit me hard. It melted the icy intellectual mountain in whose shadow I have lived and shivered many ways. Boom. Who can relate? This is what they tell you about God, that he's all this and he can do all that and blah, 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 blah. And you see it and it's like, oh my God, it's beautiful. And they tell you, but because of what you just did, you're going to go to hell. And you're going to go to hell because of this and this and this and this. And church people start to talk down to you. And where are we left? Those who have done everything wrong for their entire lives, where are we left? In the shadows, shivering, scared. I see God, I see you there, but everything that society tells me I can't be a part of that. And Ebby says, man, choose your own conception, right? And he said, I stood in the sunlight at last. That idea was so powerful that even an alcoholic like Bill W. was like, oh. And he was drunk too. It was so powerful that Bill W. in that moment felt like he was in the sunlight. And he realized in that moment that it was only a matter of willing to believe in a power greater than himself. Nothing more was asked of him. He says, do you believe or are you willing to believe? He's like, well, no, I don't believe. He says, well, are you willing to believe? Not in that sense. I mean, I'm probably sure Ebby was a lot kinder to him. He says, are you, just make your own conception. It's like, wow. Whoa. And, Bill W. is a smart man. I mean, he worked in the stock market on Wall Street, made a lot of companies, a lot of money. He made himself a lot of money. He had a lot of brain. He was in the military. He was the leader of the pack. I mean, there was definitely something about him, right? He had leadership skills. He was very smart, but he had a wonderful relationship. Well, kind of a wonderful relationship with his wife. They stuck it out, but just he could never really get his alcoholism together until he had that intervention, first by Ebby and then by higher power, right? The higher power that came in and says, where he had that ray of sunlight, just enough. That window was that little crack was just enough. That one little moment where Ebby said that statement was just enough and just so powerful that it wedged itself right in. And it made such an impact on Bill that he, even though Bill drank, Bill drank again. I mean, he was drinking when he was talking to Ebby. Bill drank again. It was a good beginning for him. And even though he drank again, and they sent him to, he was in the hospital and or locked up somewhere, and he says, man, you know, if you're real, then show me. And he had his first very, very profound spiritual experience that kind of almost like the same thing I had, where you see something, you feel something, and when you come to, you know your life's never going to be the same again. And this writer, he says, but I cannot accept help and turn my back on that help by going my own way. Which is, we as humans, we do sometimes. And I remember early in sobriety and having my first spiritual experience, and knowing that there was ever good. I mean, I knew that something had happened so powerful, so drastically powerful, that I knew that my life was going to change. It changed forever. It did change forever in that moment. And you know, I talk a lot about who I am today is not who I was yesterday. Correct. I'm the best version of me that I will ever be right now. Even though I've had some really, really good versions, today is the best me I've ever been. And guess what? It just keeps getting better as long as I am willing. If I say, God help me, and then not then turn my back on him, like, never mind, you're taking too long, I got this, and then I go on my way. And what I was gonna say before I had my little pause there was that I'm the best version of me today. But in that moment when I had my first spiritual experience and I knew that my life was never gonna be the same, life got good, really, really good. Everything that I wanted came to be. I started hanging out with this girl that I really, really cared about. We cared about each other. We started doing really good financially. We moved in together. We started to build a relationship. We went, had a family. I had a brand new car. I mean, it was good. It was good, really good. And guess what happened? Chris said, I don't need recovery no more. I've done enough. I'm fixed, man. Look at me. I'm doing great. I'm doing wonderful. I'm good. And man, I was good for a while, just on that good feeling, on the feeling of I've arrived, right? On the feeling I was good. But it only lasted. It was only a matter of time before I drank again. Why? Because the good feeling went away and I started to get stressed. I started to be worried. How am I going to pay for this car? I lost my job. My partner broke her foot, couldn't work. We had 2 babies at home. I mean, it was a really, really stressful time in my life. And the more that fear set in, the more paralyzed I got, right? I got really, really stuck. And even though she tried to get me unstuck, she tried to get motivated, she threatened to leave me. Everything I could not, she was holding it together really, really good. I was an absolute mess. And even though I wasn't drinking, well, what happened, Chris? Well, I stopped. I asked for stuff. I asked for God to help me, and He was helping me. And then I said, you know what? Never mind. I got this. It's good. I'm good now. Thank you. You saved my life. Thank you. You've got me this far. Thank you. But now you can go on your merry way. And I got it from here. And I can't expect help and then turn my back on it, right? It's telling me right there. So, you know, even the topic yesterday about the God idea, it's like, what happened? What happened, Chris? Why you were doing so good, and all of a sudden you're just like this crazy dude that nobody really wants to be around. Well, I stopped doing what works. It got good. My ego got in, says, yep. They want me. I'm the bomb. And I felt to improve. I felt to improve my spiritual well-being. I felt to improve my emotional well-being. I was thinking about it last night. What was the last thing I learned at work? When was the last time I learned something new at work? Why is that important? Because that tells me I'm stagnant. I'm stagnant by choice. By nobody else is keeping me there. I'm keeping myself there, right? So Maybe you're stagnant right now. Maybe you're keeping yourself there. Maybe you're feeling stuck. Maybe you don't even want to admit it. Okay, I get it. I've been that person. So how do we get unstuck? If you're in recovery like I am, or maybe you're not, maybe you just fell upon this little YouTube channel and you said, hey, let me listen to this dude, see what he gotta say. Even if I can only listen for 15 or 20 minutes, right? Here we go. If you're stuck, what can you do? What works when nothing else works? What works? Well, one, you could get honest. Get honest. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Honesty is the best. And if you write it down, it's honesty to yourself. The Desire Chip says, to thine own self be true. Be true to yourself first. Okay? Nobody has to read your diary. Nobody has to read your 4-step. Nobody has to read your honesty. Nobody has to read it. Only you. The honesty is for you and for nobody else. And that's okay to get honest. I've been a jerk. I haven't been acting right. I stopped praying. I blah, 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 blah. Get raw if you want to. I dislike so-and-so. So-and-so pisses me off. Get honest. Let's go. Get it all out, right? Honesty's so good for people like us. So I've totally messed my life up again. Right? To get into the solution. What is the solution? Pray a little bit. I don't know what religion you belong to. Maybe you don't belong to any. Just Google some prayers. Really simple ones. They don't have to be long. It could be easy. God, help me. God, thank you. Right? Look, what else can we do? That's 2 things we can do. 3rd thing we can do, gratitude list. Instead of looking at what you don't have, look at what you do have. Man, I have life today. I have breath today. I woke up today. I could have died last night. You know, my evening was miserable. Last night, I was really missing my mom. I cried myself to sleep. And I said, okay, but I'm not ready. Even last night. And that's a miracle right there. Because I used to say, if I die in my sleep, I'm totally fine with that. But yesterday, something happened. I said, I'm not ready to die. My job's not over here. There's more work to be done. I even say, God, there's more work to be done. And I'm here to help you do it. And I went to bed saying, thank you for my sobriety, right? So looking at what we have instead of what we don't have can really, really change our minds and our attitudes towards life, right? Man, I have a car. My car has gas today. I have a job. Okay, it's not ideal, but it's a job. It's in 2 weeks, I'm gonna be grateful that I showed up to work today because I'm gonna get to pay my rent, right? So I am grateful that I have a job today. I have a vehicle to get to my job, right? What else am I grateful for? I'm grateful for light. I have light in my apartment today. I have heat. I have warm water. All that stuff, that's the stuff that I craved for when I was homeless, drunk, and high all the time. I craved for this, the stability of having a normal life, that I could wake up in the morning and go to work, come back to work, eat a nice meal, have electricity to watch some TV or not watch TV, that I have a guitar that I could play, that I have doggies that I could walk and take them to the park, even make play dates because other people have doggies too. Like, my life is really, really good. And if I focus on that, it's really hard to focus on what I don't have. What else can I do? One more thing maybe I can share with you what I've learned here in the waiting season, right? Maybe you're not where you want to be. Maybe you haven't got the promotion. Maybe you're still single. Maybe you haven't bought the house of your dreams. In the waiting period, right? In that, from here to there, where we get there, maybe you're still waiting. Maybe you've been waiting for a long time, like me, right? What do we do? And somebody said something the other day on a podcast or some YouTube thing that I was watching, and the person said that in the waiting period, it's not that God's not doing nothing. It's that God's doing something. He's quiet because he's busy working things out for you. And all you gotta do is do what you are here to, what you're gonna do. Chris, what does Chris gotta do during his waiting period? What do you gotta do? Well, get up in the morning, pray a little bit if you can, meditate, make yourself a cup of coffee, go to work, show up on time, take a bath, comb your hair, do a really good job at work. Clock in when they tell you to, clock out when you tell it to. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Be nice to the customers if you can. If you're struggling, don't worry. I struggle too. But we can get through it together, right? Just one situation at a time, 1 minute at a time. What do I have to do right now? What do I have to do right now? One conversation at a time. What do I have to do? I gotta be nice. Okay. I can be nice, right? I can be nice for one conversation. And you take it one conversation at a time. And then while you're doing that, let God do what he does. You know, God puts your name in people's minds. He puts your ideas in people's minds, your name in people's ears. When they're out there, man, they're like, man, I need somebody for this. Who can I call? And God says, Chris. He says, man, but this person's got to know this. Who can I call? Chris. And he's got, and the person might have not heard the second one, and the person might have not heard the name the second time, and then the third one says, and he's got to be willing to do whatever it takes. Chris. And then the person says, I'm calling Chris. That's what God does. While I'm over here doing what I'm supposed to be doing, God's doing that. God's moving the pieces over there. The people that need to leave their job so that I could get my job. The people, not negatively, right? They could get promotions. They could have better opportunities. That's one thing I learned. When people leave their job or quit, it's not to go to worse. It's probably to go to better. It's not because they're having a hard time in their job, because they have an opportunity to do maybe something they've always wanted to do in the area they've always wanted to do, to live in the state they've always wanted to live in, and get paid what they've always wanted to get paid. Change is not always negative, folks. Even though it might feel negative, it not always is negative. Right? If I'm willing to accept God's help, I cannot turn my back on it. And if I do, which I've done, I'm not perfect here. I've said, okay, God help me. And then I'll be like, okay, that's not what I meant, God. I meant help me like right here, okay? I can't, that's turning my back on it. For me to ask God's help and then tell him what to do, that's turning my back on it. For me to see the blessing and totally ignore it, that's turning my back on God's help. For me to sit here and be able to drink my coffee in this famous cup. I don't know if y'all have ever seen the commercial. There's like an insurance commercial, and the guy leaves his coffee cup on top of his car. This is the cup. It's not the cup, but it's a cup like this cup. These are famous Gallos cups from Mexico. A gift from my mother when I got my first apartment in sobriety. She bought me a set of plates, and this is one of the cups that came with it. I still have the plates, but this is one of the cups, right? So grateful for that. And it's famous now. So anyway, thank you for your time, folks. Those of you who are new to my channel, thank you for tuning in. I try to do one of these every single day. I've been more consistent here lately. So I look forward to getting on here with you tomorrow, talk more about the stuff we call recovery. It's very, very hard to do this alone. I've realized that. Only through this program has it gotten easier for me to ask for help in all areas of my life. It's been able to help me pick out those people, right? Because before I was just gossiping. Before I was just telling people, woe is me. I had a really big victim mentality, but now I get to, talk honestly with people that I trust. It's like, man, this is what my life's been like. And these are what my thoughts are. And they listen. And then when I say, how did you do it? Then they share with me. And I'm grateful for people like that in my life. They're not very many, but they're more than enough, man. I love those people in my life. So folks, I gave you a few tools that you can work on today. If you don't have those people in your life, may I suggest calling 3 people from your phone list, from your contacts before noon today, and eventually you'll find your people, because I'm pretty sure that's pretty much how I found Yaya. I know that's how I found Jamie Lee. I know that's how I found my friends in my group. I'm pretty sure that my Fab Five, I found them by by making a phone call, making the connection, and slowly but surely realizing that some people were here to stay for longer periods of time than other people. And for that, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for those people in my life. And I'm more grateful for the people who are almost tired of taking a chance on me, who still do. If you're listening, if you ever see this, I think you know who you are. And I want to say thank you. I'm really, really grateful. I'm a very grateful human today. Folks, I will always encourage you to find the help, that kind of help that you needed, the people that you need to be around, the people who lift you up and teach you things, the people who give you the space to be honest without judgment, or maybe a little bit judgment, but you can't help them. Everybody's got their own thing going on. People judge me all the time. That's okay. Because the good outweighs the bad of those people that still hang out with me. And I'm very grateful today. I'm grateful for my sobriety. I'm grateful for my coffee. I'm grateful that it's spring break, because hopefully traffic won't be super crazy, because I really need to get to work, which I'm very grateful to have a job today. So thank you, folks. I hope you have the most wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.